Hello, I'm Danish but live in Serbia and have been quite a bit around in other Balkan countries too. For as long as I remember, I've been fascinated with the Balkans. Why? Well, I ask myself. Recently there was a reportage from the so-called Damned Mountains in Financial Times. The Damned Mountains straddle the borders of Montenegro, Albania and Kosovo, and the FT journalist felt he had to explain why on earth he went to such a godforsaken place. Because of its intriguing name, he said, to find out what and which stories are behind it. In a sense, maybe the fascination so widespread among so-called Westerners with the Balkans is about the same thing, because we outsiders have heard that name mentioned so many times, with so many fanciful, dreadful, colorful and intriguing connotations, that we just have to see for ourselves whether it really is like that. And it is, and it isn't. If you have read the book Balkan Ghosts by American bestseller writer Robert Kaplan, in which he travels across the peninsula, promoting centuries of stereotypes, for example, blaming both world wars on the peoples and mentality of the Balkans, then the Balkans is not what you've heard it is. If you have heard of centuries of wars, ethnic tension, mafia, political plots, assassinations and corruption, well, it is all that. But these things come with music, food, literature, partying, everyday life, and not the least ordinary people and peoples. But what is the common denominator for all these things which attract people like me, often before they've set foot here? The answer is genius loci, the spirit of place. The problem which you realize when you arrive, which is not really a problem but a great thing, is that the Balkans isn't one place. That should be obvious, but the Balkans is mostly talked about as one indivisible unit, a box filled with wars, corruption, assassinations and all that, all over the place. But compare to a better known place like Paris, for example. The spirit of place in the Latin Quarter is completely other than the one at the Père Lachaise cemetery, or in the Montmartre, or in the Boulogne Park, and so on. All those places have each their own atmosphere, which is completely different from the others, and which associate to different persons' stories and meanings, but only experienced as a whole, in which all the places interconnect and modify each other, you get the sum, which is the spirit of Paris. In principle, only a one-to-one representation of the city will give a complete description of its spirit, but such a description would make no sense. In the overflow of information, the spirit of a place would be like the needle in the haystack. So everyone trying to convey this spirit would have to cut a heel and chop a toe, without causing the foot irreparable harm, that is, without making the spirit of place unrecognizable. And not everything can be cut. Paris without a cafe on the Seine is an invalid Paris, and the Eiffel Tower cannot really be left out either. How it keeps popping up in different angles and distances when you move through the city. And it's the same with the Balkans. When you arrive, you realize that everything that the words the Balkans have always made you think of corresponds to the real Balkans only in a very limited sense, and that the Balkans is so much more and other than you had any idea of before coming here. If outsiders were asked to describe the Balkans through the peninsula's most important places, many would mention Srebrenica as a locality that cannot be skipped. But before the Bosnian War of the 90s, Many would first of all have thought of the street corner in the Bosnian capital Sarajevo, where the ascendant to the Austro-Hungarian throne was assassinated in 1914, or the field of Blackbirds in Kosovo, where the Ottoman Turks in 1389 fought a decisive battle against the mostly Serbian army and then occupied the Balkans for 500 years. In this way, the places which cannot be left out of a description of the spirit of Paris are all positive, life-confirming, whereas those that most people associate with the Balkans are negative, associated with war and death. But in the Balkans, hundreds of other places with each their stories, personalities and meanings are indispensable facets of the peninsula's genius loci, its spirit of place. On this site, I'll try to present some of the places and current events that in my eyes are characteristic of the Balkans, and which together make up its spirit.